On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's hard to win a game when the umpire is working against you. But does winning and being competitive really matter when you're running your second bullpen game in less than a week? I'm John, one half of the Super Halo Bros, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM if you're fancy, just by searching Locked On Angels. If you want to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content we give to you Monday through Friday, every single weekday, there's a couple things you can do for us. First, we'd really love it if you subscribed to the YouTube channel. That really helps us out. Hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment because it's really helpful to the channel and it puts us in front of other Angels fans who might not know about Locked On Angels. You can also leave us a rate and review on Apple Podcast. And of course, join us. Be an everydayer. Be here 5 days a week. Whether you're watching or listening, find today's show on YouTube. Get in the comments section because we love reading your comments. We always do our best to get back to everybody, but we definitely read them all, and it's the best way to get in touch with us and be part of the conversation. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. My name is John Frisch. I'm one half of the Super Halo Bros. My brother Mike, he's on vacation. He's on Catalina Island at the Catalina Wine Mixer. So it's going to be me for Thursday's show and Friday's show. So I'm looking forward to chatting Angels baseball with you. We've been fans of this team our whole lives. We've been through it all, thick and thin. And as I like to say, there's a lot of thin these days, but it's our fourth season as a host of Locked On Angels, talking Halo ball with you Monday through Friday, every single weekday. On today's show, when's Mike Trout coming back to the outfield? We're going to have a conversation about that. Plus, where did Baseball America put all the new prospects that were drafted in the Angels top 30? That's going to be a very fun conversation here on the show as well. But before we get to all of that, we want to give you our takeaways from Game 3 between the Angels and the Mets that occurred on Wednesday morning for us, afternoon for them on the East Coast. It was a 6-3 Mets victory. First takeaway I want to give you, the ump show. We got to get this out of the way. Eric Backus is a name that should make us all tremble with fear if it ever comes up again, because in the vein of Angel Hernandez, Laz Diaz, who, by the way, was not terrible in this series against the Mets. The Angels actually had some runs in favor because of Laz Diaz. But Eric Backus is a name that we need to avoid like the plague if he's going to be behind home plate, because he made some absolutely terrible strike calls against Luis Rengifo as the Angels were trying to come back in the eighth inning. All three strikes were away and out of the zone. The last two were called strikes, even though they were really ball 4 and ball 5. And I say that because Rengifo had worked a 3-1 count, thought he had ball 4s, but it was called a strike. Then it was a full count. And Luis Rengifo took, like I said, ball 5, and he was rung up, struck out. Insane. Ray Montgomery got tossed. He argued with the umpire. You could make the argument that Backus was being consistent because every pitch out of the zone was a strike, but those pitches were not even borderline. And you can see that Backus was set up at such a weird angle anyway. It was no wonder he wasn't getting any calls right in this game. He was almost diagonal to home plate behind the catcher. But I bring that up because it was a big point of conversation. It was all over social media. It's awful. And don't worry, friends. Mike and I are part of the MLB Fan Council. ABS is coming. They are going to implement the challenge system. It will happen next year. You can put a stamp on that, a Mike and John Super Halo Bros seal of approval. But I say all this because does it really matter? And that leads me to my next takeaway. The Angels saying and doing are two very different things. And here's what I mean. The Angels' messaging from the offseason until now is, we want to compete for a playoff spot. We think we have the talent, we have the capability, and there's certainly been times where they looked like they had been able to compete for a playoff spot. They swept the Dodgers. They swept the A's. They went on that 8-game win streak. That was a lot of fun. And I even said preseason that I think this Angels team, with the talent they have and the roster they have, could sneak into the playoffs because the roster they built for this season was actually pretty good. But here's the problem, my friends. You can't give fans the message of, we want to compete, and then run out your second bullpen game in less than a week during a pivotal series that's going to determine your standing at the trade deadline. Now, they did this last Friday, and they were fortunate to muster up enough offense in Philly to pick up the win in their last bullpen game, 6-5. But they came up short in this one, losing 6-3. So maybe you could get away with that bullpen game last Friday, take the W, but to do it again, I think that's garbage. And here's why I think that's garbage. All week long, if you're as tuned in as the Angel fan that you know, that you sit next to at the games, if you're as tuned in as somebody like Mike and I are, we have heard time and time again just how crucial these next couple of series are for the Angels. And this goes back to the Philly series and the Mets series. You heard it from Wayne and Gooby on the broadcast. You've heard it from Terry and Mark on the radio. You've heard it from the players themselves in interviews with guys like Jeff Fletcher from the OC Register. You've heard it from us. And I know you know this because you, our everydayers, have said as much in our comments on YouTube and in social media. These are crucial series. So why are we not putting our best foot forward and actually having a starter on Wednesday? Now, I know the Angels probably want to use their 4 remaining starters in the rotation for this Mariners series. You got Kikuchi tonight, Soriano tomorrow, Anderson Saturday, Hendricks Sunday. But what's stopping you from calling up a starter like Victor Medeiros, Sam Aldeguerri, or even giving Carson Fulmer the start to at least get you 4 or 5 innings? Oh, that's right. You can't, because you used Carson Fulmer to end the game on Tuesday, because we all know the Angels are going to need their bullpen this weekend against the Mariners. And fortunately, even though he took the loss, even though he gave up 5 earnings, Jake Eder ended up going 6 innings and saving at least a couple of arms. But he's also the one who ended up giving the Mets the lead. And also, we can make an argument that he shouldn't have been in that position anyway, maybe not even with the Major League roster. But I don't know. Maybe this Mets series isn't as crucial as the Mariners series in the eyes of the Angels, because this just screams of not putting your best foot forward. You've known for 3 weeks now that you were going to need a starter to take Jack Kohanowitz's spot. The Royals gave 45-year-old Rich Hill a start on Tuesday, his 14th team, his 21st season. He actually didn't do too bad either. It was the errors that really cost him that game. Earlier this year, the White Sox signed Adrian Hauser, who was DFA'd, I believe, by the Rangers, and then he started that night. They signed him, and he started that night. So maybe the Angels go after Eric Fetty. He was DFA'd by the Cardinals yesterday. Maybe they get him to start on Monday, because otherwise they're going to have to do another bullpen game. But to me, this doesn't look like a team that wants to compete. It doesn't look like a team in a position to buy. Sometimes it doesn't look like a team that even wants to buy. And I don't mean the guys on the field. I'm not talking about the players. Those guys are all in. They want to see this go somewhere. I'm talking about the coaching staff, the front office, all of that. And maybe that's just it. Maybe it's all a big conspiracy. Maybe Perry Manassian knows it's not time to buy. Maybe he knows that Artie wants to go all in if they're close, and everything Perry's tried to build within Artie's paradise is going to go out the window if they have to buy players using the prospects that they have, the very minimal prospects that they have, this farm system that was depleted and now actually has something of value. And that's the third takeaway. The Angels were swept by the Mets. 2 very winnable games on Monday and Tuesday. You could argue they should have won on Monday. They were in it on Tuesday. And then they kicked the can down the road on Wednesday with this bullpen game. They're 49-53, 4 games under 500. They're 11 games back of the Astros in the West, 5 games back of a wild card spot in the American League. They've got the Twins, the Royals, the Guardians, the Rays, and the Rangers ahead of them. The Red Sox, they currently have that third spot. The Rangers, they're 8-2 in their last 10. So are the Guardians, and they're both ahead of the Angels. So this series versus the Mariners and the Rangers are crucial. You just beat the Phillies 2 out of 3. They've been neck and neck with the Mets all season. So it's not like you can't beat good teams. You can beat good teams. But my question is, do you still want to? Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we're going to take a look at how Baseball America ranks the Angels' top 30 prospects. We're going to take a look at the new additions, and we'll get into that coming right up. Hey, so you guys know I love wearing different hats on Locked On Angels, and we have new friends at Game Day Hue. Game Day Hue makes clean, no logo gear. They have team-inspired colorways for every pro and college fan base. It's about letting your colors speak for you. No giant logos, just smart, versatile style that works on game day or anywhere in between. And the hat looks good. It's got Angels colors. It looks like I'm wearing their home uniforms. I encourage you to come over to YouTube and check out the video side of this, but it's a white solid hat with the red rope across the bill. It looks great. And I could easily wear this to a game and people know where my loyalties lie. Or I could wear it out going to get donuts on a Saturday morning with my wife and my baby. And we love to do that and take our dog with us. I could wear it then too. And it goes with everything. Plus, if you're somebody who's into golf, and my boss at my other job is actually kind of getting me into golf. It's kind of weird, but they also have these really great golf gloves, the split shade gloves made for the golf course, or the perfect gift for the fan who has everything. Right now, you can get 15% off with the code MLB15 at GameDayHue.com. That's GameDayHue.com. That code even stacks on bundle deals, so now is the time to load up. Let your colors talk, because colors speak louder than words. That's GameDayHue.com, code MLB15. This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. When is Mike Trout going to be back to playing in the outfield? Well, according to the media, journalists like Jeff Fletcher and Rhett Bollinger, who covers the Angels for MLB.com, Trout said, soon. Just like a slow progression to get my feet under me and then hopefully be back in the outfield soon. He's been running outfield drills. He did that over the last week, said he felt good. He said the stuff all felt good today. It's just that load going out there for 9 innings and running and how I recover from that. Now, if the Angels can get Trout back in the outfield, that gives them a little bit more flexibility for their lineup. I will say this. I appreciated the way the Angels were able to handle their needs yesterday in terms of offense and defense. And I mean that by saying Jorge Soler left the game with back tightness, and so they were able to move Chris Taylor, who started at third, to right field. They brought in Kevin Newman, and then later on in the game, they had the opportunity to have Logan O'Hoppe pinch hit, and he pinch hit in that situation for Kevin Newman. And then you were able to put Chris Taylor back at third. You were able to run Lamont Wade Jr. out to right field. They have a lot of versatility. But if Trout can get back to the outfield, that would even give them more versatility to work with. Right now, the Angels have Trout as the primary DH. That means Soler, when he plays, is playing in right field. And that's actually an interesting part of his offensive production. Right now, he's got a 687 OPS as the primary DH. And since Trout's return, he's had a 583 OPS while playing in right field. Now, Soler has been better. He's got a 946 OPS in July. I think him coming back from injury and feeling good has a lot to do with that, but the back tightness that he left the game with yesterday is concerning. But also Mike Trout has had an equally great July, a 958 OPS in over 60 at-bats, and he had that home run yesterday, that solo home run. So the big question here is, what's the best usage of Trout and Soler in this lineup and in the outfield? When you think about the versatility, it never hurts to have somebody else who can play another position. And Trout has that DH spot locked up tight. The issue with Soler coming into this team last off season, and a lot of our everydayers brought this up, is the fact that some people felt like Trout should just go ahead and DH full-time anyway. And I kind of disagreed with that at the time because I had seen Trout look better than ever, right? We all saw the Christmas photo. He looked like he had lost weight, gotten in really good shape, and I felt like that was going to be really good for his legs. Well, he ended up hurting those very same legs, and it was running to first base, which is something he would have to do as a DH anyway. So that's concerning. But he hasn't quite recovered from that knee. He's working his way back, as he said, and to get back out to the outfield again, it can't hurt to have that flexibility. But you also needed Jorge Soler to add some slugging to this team, which was sorely missing last season. Now, everybody is slugging on this team this season. In fact, the Angels sit behind just the Yankees in barrel percentage, which means that they're hitting the ball on a trajectory. The launch angle and the degrees off the bat are what you call a barrel. And that means those hits often fall in for hits more often than not. Now, using Trout and Soler in this lineup, I think the big hindrance here is, aren't you guys disappointed when you see Lamont Wade Jr. playing right field instead of Soler? And I was actually excited to see Soler in the lineup yesterday until he got hurt. But I have to say, it's very disappointing when you've got Wade out in right field. They do have Chris Taylor back. But again, I think Jorge Soler's power and pop is what he has to offer. You know, he hit one just the other night. And if that's not in the lineup, then you're left with somebody like Lamont Wade Jr. taking that spot. Because again, the DH spot is clogged up by Mike Trout. Now, I think the goal here is to get both these guys into the lineup, because this is the team that you selected before this season started. You expected Trout and Soler to be in this lineup. Problem is, the only way you can do that right now is if one of them plays right field. And that's an issue, because Soler, not very good in right field, and then Trout, we're all concerned about his health. We just want him in this lineup. I know he's been disappointing in the big moments lately, but if he is not a role player, because he makes too much money to be a role player, if he gets back to doing Trout-like things, making good contact, getting on base the way that he has continued to do so, you got to have him in the lineup. And Jorge Soler, he's been really good since he's come back, and it's unfortunate that he got hurt. But I really think, and I know he'll deny this, but it really has a lot to do with his health. And so I think that having both these guys in this lineup is super necessary. And yeah, you can have Chris Taylor now and again out in the outfield, right? That's not a problem. I enjoy him. I think that the more opportunity that he gets, the better that he gets. He showed that yesterday in the game versus the Mets. But as long as Trout is clogging up that DH spot, you really have to battle with, all right, is it going to be Soler out there? Can we risk having Soler's not so great defense out there? We've seen it. We've seen some really bad stuff. We got that face plant image burned in my brain from the Yankees series, I believe. So when you take all of that into consideration, the most ideal situation is having Trout and Soler in this lineup, Trout in right field, Soler at DH. But Does it really matter if Soler is in this lineup? Because they brought him in for slugging, but everybody's slugging. Like I mentioned, Joe Adell has really become a slugger. Taylor Ward, obviously, he can slug it. Nolan Shawnuel doesn't hit the home runs, but he'll hit the doubles, still slugging. Logan O'Hoppy's coming around. So I think the Angels actually have bought themselves some time for Mike Trout to get better and get back in the outfield. And eventually we'll see Soler as the primary DH again. But in the meantime, I don't think the slugging issue is a problem. I think everybody's handling that well. It's been addressed. It was addressed over the offseason by adding Soler for Griffin Canning. But then all of a sudden, everybody's slugging really well. So again, I say, yes, Trout, Soler, that's who you want in your lineup. However, the Angels have bought themselves some time, and they're able to get through this time until Trout is healthy so that they can get back to the positions that they were meant to play. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. If you ever have wished managing your money felt easier, it can with Monarch Money. Take it from me. I used our promo code, LOCKEDONMLB. I got 50% off my first year of Monarch Money because my wife and I, we love staying on top of our budget. We like saving money. We like knowing that the money we earn is actually going towards things and not just disappearing into shopping or fast food or anything like that. If you're trying to plan a big purchase or you're saving up for something, Monarch Money can put you in the driver's seat. It's like having a personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. You got to go check out the website, monarchmoney.com, because they'll show you what it looks like. And what it looks like is awesome. The very first thing I saw when I opened up the app was a chart showing me my spending this month compared to last month. You guys know I geek out on that stuff. I'm an English major, but I can geek out on some graphs. And that's why I love baseball so much. And that's why I love Monarch Money so much. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Baseball America added the new draftees to the Angels' top 30 prospects. Now, I'm going to pull up a graphic here that I'm really excited to share with you. It's essentially the top 30 in the Angels organization and the newbies that came from this draft, the draft that just happened a couple of weeks ago. Man, it feels like this was a lifetime ago, but no, it was literally just like 2 weeks ago. So for those on the audio side, I'll read this out for you, but if you're on the video side, you can follow along with me here. Tyler Bremner is a college right-handed pitcher. He is the number one prospect in the Angel system per Baseball America. Now remember, this isn't MLB Pipeline. This isn't The Athletic. This is just one organization's opinion about the Angels' top 30 prospects. Tyler Bremner is number one. Christian Moore, number two. Caden Dana, number three. George Clausen, number four. Nelson Rada, number five. Number six is Ryan Johnson. Number seven is Josue Lugo. Number 8 is Sam Aldeguerri. Number 9, Denzer Guzman. Number 10, Gabriel Davalillo. Newbie, Johnny Slawinski. He's a high school pitcher. He's a lefty. He is number 11. Then you got Barrett Kent, been around for a while. Trey Gregory Alford. He was a high school pitcher they took last year. Number 14 is a new draftee. Chase Shores. He's a college right-handed pitcher. Chris Cortez, our buddy, is number 15. Sam Bachman, number 16. Matthew Lugo, number 17. Dylan Jordan, number 18. Now we got two new draft picks here. 19 is Nate Snead. He's a college right-handed pitcher. Number 20 is Talon Haley, a high school left-handed pitcher. Then you got Jose Fermin, Walbert Urania, Juan Flores, Jake Eater, Joel Hurtado. Then two more. CJ Gray, number 26. He's a high school right-handed pitcher. Isaiah Jackson is a college outfielder. He's number 27. Sammy Natera, Hayden Alvarez, and then finally, rounding it off, Luke LaCourse, a high school right-handed pitcher. So, With that said, I think the big question here is, what does this list say about the Angels farm system, considering that 8 of the draft picks they got from 2025 are now in their top 30? Well, here's what I think is important to remember. A lot of the Angels farm system is very, very young. The international free agents they've signed, they can be signed as early as 16 years old. And at the same time, the high school pitchers they took, like CJ Gray and Talon Haley, they offer a lot of potential. And that's something that gets factored into farm system rankings. And it also factors into why they got placed in the top 30. Again, 8 new names in the Angels top 30. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of those are high schoolers. They're young guys. They're 18, 19 years old. So I bring that up because I have a notion here, a theme that I noticed as we did the research on these draft picks. There's a lot of commonalities with these arms. They're probably a guy that has a great fastball, high velo. Maybe they have a great breaking pitch, but the theme here is they have that stuff, but the command and the control is an issue. And when you actually look around the minor leagues, you can actually see that. We actually took a look at the draft picks from a year ago, a few episodes back, kind of gave an update on where they are 1 year later. And the one thing that stood out was there were a lot of high ERAs with those young arms. Now, if you look closer, you can see that they issue a lot of walks. Their whip, walks and hits per innings pitched, is pretty high. Listen, that's going to lead to a lot of base runners and a lot of runs against you and a high ERA. So here's the thing. The Angels' job in player development is one thing: to harness these big arms that they've drafted or signed via international free agency. That requires teaching command. It requires teaching control. And so it's a lot of raw talent. Like, these are just naturally gifted guys, right? But it's raw talent that needs to be shaped and it needs to be molded. And that seems to be the MO of the Angels. You take these young arms who display great traits in their pitches, but then you got to teach them to be pitchers, right? You can see the talent. You can see that, like, oh, that guy's fastball, that's real, real good, but he has no control. He's got no command. You have to teach those guys to become pitchers. It's almost like this. Remember how Billy Epler would draft big, athletic dudes? Think Kyron Paris, think Joe Adell. Joe Adell, he could be a wide receiver in the NFL, right? He's got the speed, he's got the athleticism, he's got all of that. The talent is there, but then you have to teach these athletic dudes to become baseball players. And that's the difference between like a Joe Adell and a Zach Neto, right? Zach Neto, that dude's a ball player. You could tell from day one he was a baseball player. Gritty, gutsy, dives in the dirt, that kind of guy. We talk about it all the time. Joe Adell took some time, right? Finally coming around after a few years in the minors and finally getting a full season in the majors last year and doing well this year. But it took some time to teach that athlete how to be a baseball player. And that feels like that's what's happening with these young arms. They have all the talent in the world. You can see it. You can hear it with the snap of the ball in the glove, right? But that's what they're doing with these young arms. They are trying to get these raw, talented guys and harness them because their ceiling is very, very high. Is it risky? Yeah. Risky, potential, they go hand in hand. But it all goes back to potential. This is one of the first drafts I think the Angels drafted on potential rather than we know what they are, right? A high ceiling instead of a high floor. A high ceiling being, let's get this guy to be an ace. This guy, yeah, he's raw. He needs some work. But if we do it right, he could be a 1 or a 2 in a rotation. That's a high ceiling. Versus a high floor, which is, well, we kind of know what this guy's going to be. All he's ever going to be is a middle relief kind of guy. See, that's the difference, guys. Floors are a sure thing. Ceilings are a gamble. And the Angels took a lot of guys with high ceilings in this draft. Meaning, yeah, low floor, probably pretty risky. But a high ceiling, there's potential there. And potential is risky. Risk has potential. The big question is, after saying all of that, can we trust the Angels player development to get these guys to where they need to go? And the answer in the past has been a very clear and obvious no. We cannot trust Angels player development. However, when Chris Cortez was on this show, we specifically asked him his feelings on that. I said, hey, can we trust this Angels player development to get you guys where you need to go? And here's what he thought. He said, the minor league guys, they're getting everything they need to be successful, whether that's coaching, whether that's advice, whether that's health and diet, whether that's technology. It's all there. And that's something we've never heard before about this Angels organization. And I think it has a lot to do with what Perry Manassian has tried to build over the last 5 years he's been here. Some player development. Maybe, is it going to be good? Can we trust the Angels player development? Is it going to help these guys? Well, that's TBD. It's going to take a few years before we can really find that out. But according to guys like Chris Cortez, they're in a better position than they've been in a very, very long time. So once again, they took a lot of high ceiling guys who have potential to be really great, or a low floor that's, well, it's not as great as we thought it was going to be. And it's up to the Angels to get them to meet that ceiling, meet their potential, and turn into something really special for this Angels organization. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On Angels, especially on YouTube, so that way you don't miss any of the great Angels content we've got for you, including the best Angels postcast with Gavin Carlson. He goes live after the final out of every game. You can get all the best Angels content right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and connect with Mike and myself on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Now, listen, the Angels start a series against the Mariners tonight, but you guys know that Mike and I, we like to recap the entire weekend series on the following Monday. So that's what we're going to do. So if you need an instant reaction, be sure to tune into the postcast with Gavin that I mentioned earlier. You can also keep up with us on social media. Again, Super Halo Bros, Locked On Angels, because we'll be tweeting through it all. We'll be posting through it all. Then you can get instant reaction here on the YouTube channel with the postcast with Gavin, or follow us on social media, and you'll get our immediate thoughts on everything happening this weekend between the Angels and the Mariners. With that being said, Friday, tomorrow, we're going to have ourselves an honest conversation about the trade deadline. What will it mean for the Angels to be buyers? What would it mean for them to be sellers? And what would it mean for them to stand pat? We're going to talk about all three of those on tomorrow's show. Until then, my name is John, and for my brother Mike, we thank you for being here for this edition of Locked On Angels, and we'll see you back here on Friday.